Now who gotta move rockin' on? Now who wanna move crossin' on? Now who wanna move out on? If you got stripes and you let the city know you rock 'em, yeah we got 'em, yeah we fought 'em. Like that black and orange up on 'em, bingo ball 'em, never stop it. To the beast and load 'em. Who they rockin' with the diamond stripes, flossin' on the ring. Cincinnati, she's our queen, we gon' show the world.
What's up everybody? This is Ted Karras of the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cincy Hat, and you're watching Bengals and Brews.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the show. As Crip said, don't call it a pop-up. We've done Wednesday shows for a long time. But, yeah, you'll get a lot of this throughout, it's the off season. Different stuff comes up. Today, the main one, Dante Moore, going all the way on ESPN just to make the announcement he's returning to Oregon. First off, how did you feel about him going on ESPN to do that? Did you care? Is that a red flag? Should we ding him for being a diva?
I mean, it's kind of a new age. We do our commitments now out of high school with the hat reveal, which is kind of comical sometimes because we've had issues with parents this year, in the recruiting trails. There's a lot of money tied to that, but then also the re-signing of players to colleges kind of gets strange. That's something to get used to. And then going on ESPN. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things where even on Oregon, they want to make a deal out of it too, to kind of promote their brand. So who knows what goes into all that stuff,
And that's my guess. It's more like Oregon because, they brought back their entire D-line. All four of those guys could have went in the NFL draft and probably at worst all been gone before day 2 was over. That's how good that entire defensive line was. They're all coming back. Now, they did have a couple guys that declared in Kenyon Sadiq, who could be top 15 type player. Dylan Thieneman could go in the first. Maybe, maybe he's there when the Bengals pick in the second. If you didn't take a safety like Caleb Downs in the first, he'd be a great target for them. So they did have a couple guys leave, but man, they've loaded back up. So it wasn't super shocking, especially the way Dante Moore's season ended. The fact that he's still 20 years old. He hasn't played a ton of football. I think that experience usually matters for how you project guys to the NFL. He's got some work to do. For him, I fully understand the decision of going back to school. For us as Bengals fans, it sucks because that's another talented player off the board. I don't see Ty Simpson. I don't see Trinidad Chambliss. I don't see those guys going top 10. So what are your feelings on overall the Dante Moore declaring and how it affects the Bengals?
Yeah, going back to the college side and you evaluating the draft, and I'm sure you're starting to pick up on trends over the last 3 to 4 years here. So when you look at the last, potential 3 championship teams in college, Michigan, Ohio State, and either Miami or Indiana, they're older rosters. There's a lot of 22, 23, 24-year-olds. So I think seeing Dante Moore go back to Oregon, it certainly does impact the draft board. I think it is a trickle effect across the entire board where you see a lot of players that are going to probably be in the draft next year are going to be a lot older prospects as well. So it's going to be kind of interesting on how that impacts draft boards in the future when you're evaluating maybe older prospects that are coming through in the draft now and guys declaring and staying. For us specifically in our position, it'll be interesting in how that shakes out. I do think there are some offensive hungry teams that are drafting before us. And as we evaluate the draft, I also do think when you're looking at skilled players that are needle mover, I think there's not a lot out there in the first round to be had. So I kind of still think the Bengals will be in a good position for the most part.
And you're still picking 10th. There should be some good choices, but it will be something as we do more mock drafts. I just imagine, now we're going to have to take another player that we hadn't taken in the one we just did. Because as long as there was a possibility Moore was in this draft, he was going in the top 5. Even after that performance against Indiana, there's teams are starting, and maybe someone will surprise us and take a Ty Simpson, but holy crap, I think that would be a huge reach, personally. Can you see a world where Ty Simpson goes in those first 9 picks?
No, I don't. I think this is going to be a year in which, unfortunately for the NFL, I mean, we're seeing a lot of trends bubble up here, where you're going to probably have a lot of teams that just kick the tires, right? Now,
Yeah.
like look at it, like
Kick the can down the road, wait till next year's class.
yeah, and I don't. That's a bigger conversation around the NFL. Who wants to watch like half the league kind of like, they're not tanking, but they're not certainly like no, they're not in a position with their quarterback of the future. Like you look like the Jets, what are they going to do now? Because certainly Mendoza is going to go off the board and that sort of thing. So it's not great, I don't think, for the health of the sport, but that's another conversation. Back to your question about Ty Simpson, I do think he is a player that somebody might take a swing on in the first round. I just don't think it's going to be. Yeah.
I'm with you. I think somebody will try to get him. I've got a second round grade on him still. I mean, he's got a lot of good traits. You look at the first half of the season, it was a guy that, he was trending toward top 5 pick at that point. But I will say the second half of the season, he doesn't have a ton of experience. Just like Dante Moore, he actually, I think, had less starts than Dante Moore because Moore had 5 at UCLA as a true freshman. So it's one of those things. I really thought he would go back, but I've seen Kuiper saying Simpson and Chambliss go round 1. I don't think it's crazy, especially for Simpson. Even though I got a second round grade on him, he's going to be in a lot of my mock drafts. Somebody's going to take him before that pick, so they have that 5th-year option on him. Because if he does hit, then you've kind of got that under control for the contract on that year.
Yeah.
Chambliss, I don't know. We don't even know Chambliss. I know he's technically in the draft right now. He may still end up back at Ole Miss.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and you're going to have your quarterbacks that look good in the underwear, and at the draft combine. We have the Senior Bowl coming up, which is really exciting. I'm excited to see like Taylor Green. That's a guy I kind of got circled from Arkansas.
Let's just get right into it then with that while we're talking quarterbacks. Now, I haven't seen anything on Kenyatta Jackson, but I think he's trending back to go to Ohio State. The deadline is for those guys today. Keon Saab also haven't seen anything official, but there are reports that he's probably going back to Alabama. So that's 2 players I removed from the draft guide already, along with Dante Moore today. And then Max Clare also declared for Ohio State. 2 guys that don't have to declare until next Friday that I still have in the draft guide that I think could go either way is Ahmad Moten, the defensive tackle for Miami. Mm-hmm. And then also Carter Smith plays left tackle for Indiana, may kick into guard, but might try to stick at tackle as well. Both of those guys have eligibility left and I think have decisions to make. So those are a couple guys we probably won't know till like closer to next Friday, or at least after Monday, after the championship sometime. We're not going to hear anything on them till then. But looking at guys who are in this draft, because we already have official announcements. They're either out of eligibility or they are going to the Senior Bowl. So let's get into the Senior Bowl roster. We'll look at quarterbacks first. And just so we can kind of talk about some guys that stand out to us, who needs to have big performances, obviously all of them, or guys that we don't think they really have a chance to move really up beyond day 3. You've got Luke Altmaier, Taylon Green. Well, Luke Altmaier from Illinois, Taylon Green, Arkansas, Garrett Nussmeier, LSU, Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt, Cole Payton, North Dakota State, and Sawyer Robertson from Baylor. I do have all of these guys in the draft guide. Get your draft guide, Project Game Day draft guide, $5 donation to charity. Shameless plug. But you were just talking about Taylon Green, so I'll let you continue the conversation about him. Then we'll talk about some of these other guys.
Yeah. Taylon Green is a guy that, he definitely came in with a lot of pedigree. If you put his tape, I really love. He actually is kind of built like Mendoza, a little slider. I love his presence in the pocket. He has good movement within the pocket. He has a really live arm. And against some of the competition that we're still seeing that played in the playoffs, he has some pretty big games too. Like Ole Miss, he had a really good game this year. So, and I know Ole Miss's defense wasn't lights out at the time either, but performing in the SEC, going to get some tougher defenses. He kind of rise to the occasion. I think with him, my concern was he does make some boneheaded plays and throws, and he can turn the ball over. He's a little loose with it. But if you're talking value, like a player in like the middle rounds or something like that, that's a guy that I could see a team definitely taking a swing on, if he's available. So,
well, just looking at these quarterbacks, and it's not a good class in general. Dante Moore going back, we mentioned Chambliss, we mentioned Simpson. Obviously, Mendoza at the top. You don't have any of those three on this list for the Senior Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But all of these guys are kind of in that next tier, or they have potential to rise up into that next tier with a good Senior Bowl week. I think they're all day 3. Is there anybody here is it Green that you do think could rise into day 2 if somebody, kind of takes a quarterback? Because if I'm just looking at my rankings, like, there's no Carson Beck on here either. Simpson, Chambliss already mentioned. And then for me, it's probably Garrett Nussmeier is the top guy at 5. But even then, I think I've got more of him as like a 4th, 5th round kind of grade in this class. Like none of these guys. And typically there's about 10 quarterbacks drafted each year, somewhere around that average.
I mean, when we're looking at production, I mean, Sawyer Robertson, it's hard to turn your head against some of the production and the numbers he put up in college. And he can run with the ball too. So he's a guy that I'd be interested in. I mean, he's got a lot of reps, 22 years old, and I know NFL teams like guys that have a lot of reps in college. So he would be a guy that I would be really intrigued to see how he kind of like tests, goes through this process, the Senior Bowl. Senior Bowls are a little tough sometimes for quarterbacks because they're matched up with like receivers they never played with before, and it can be kind of sloppy offensive football. So I don't put everything into that, but obviously through the practices, you want to see that they're having a good showing and throwing with timing and anticipation and all that good stuff. So,
Yeah. Nussmeier is the only one to me that maybe if he just like really looks like he did last year, at least, I mean, he's always has had that gunslinger, too many turnovers, and he certainly didn't make the jump. He actually went backwards this year. I mean, he had some really rough outings. You don't know how much of that was injury. I mean, at this point, he should be fully healthy because they shut him down. He's been shut down. If he's out there playing, hopefully we're seeing the best version of Garrett Nussmeier during Senior Bowl week. And it's not all just about the game because it's how are you looking in practices? That's a big part of this for the Senior Bowl. For me, it's probably Garrett Nussmeier as the guy that could fall into day 2. And then after that, I mean, there's no Cade Klubnik on here. There's no Drew Aller for the Senior Bowl. I've got kind of Taylon Green and Cole Payton in that next tier, but it's all right there. Like, it's like I've got Green at 8, Payton at 9, Altmaier at 10, and Robertson at 11. The one guy I have a hard time seeing being drafted at all of this list is Diego Pavia. It's just the size. It's like, I mean, is he going to switch positions? Is this a guy that maybe could play like fullback? Is that crazy to think? Because, I mean, he's durable. He's got a thick kind of build.
Yeah.
Like, could he put on even more weight? And otherwise, I don't know. Or is this the guy who's just going to be playing, in the UFL or all these other leagues? Probably.
You know what team I'd love for him to go to? Is San Francisco, because they had Greg Jennings, who was a top record. He was ranked over Burrow going into college, and he threw the wide receiver pass to Christian McCaffrey. I just feel like in a right system, he's like a player you can probably utilize in a lot of different ways. And I could see Shanahan getting his hands because they use what's his name, Kyle
Juszczyk.
Yeah, Juszczyk. They use him out of the backfield, I mean, I think there's a role for him in the NFL if just like teams are open-minded enough to kind of utilize him because he is a playmaker and a football player, so. But yeah, UDFA for sure. UDFA. Yeah. Yep.
And I know Ryan Sparks always talks about Cole Payton. He had, his big time throw percentage was huge, but then in that last game that they lost, was that like to Montana? He had a rough game, like 4 interceptions, he's going to have a huge week to even, I don't know, be a 5th, 6th round pick. Like, I mean, I see he's a lefty, so that always, like, I don't know, for whatever reason, looks good. But you got to have a big week from Cole Payton at the Senior Bowl for me to even consider taking him very seriously. And that's a huge transition, and it's going to take a lot of time. He's only a 1-year starter, too, even at North Dakota State. That's a huge transition for a quarterback from that level. We see it more with linemen that they can translate a little bit. Obviously with like the Seahawks guard that they got. Don't know why I'm blanking on his name. You know who I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, Zabel.
Yeah, Gray Zabel.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll move into running backs now. And once again, this is the Senior Bowl official roster that's out. Katron Allen, Penn State, Jonah Coleman, Washington, Razul Faison, who's like a 7th-year guy. Didn't have a huge season from South Carolina, but pretty good season, lower competition prior to that. I think he was at Utah State, actually. Seth McGowan, Kentucky. He's got some off-field stuff that teams will definitely have to shift through. Jam Miller, injured most of the season for Alabama. Le'Veon Moss, Texas A&M, another guy that was injured for a lot of the back half of the season. Adam Randall, the converted wide receiver, he's fun from Clemson. Nick Singleton didn't quite have the year that anyone expected from Penn State, but he's still one of the better pass-catching running backs in this class. Jamari Taylor had a huge season for Virginia. And one of my personal favorites is Mike Washington Jr. from Arkansas, because this guy's like 6'1", 6'2", like 230, and he can move. And 1 year at Arkansas, but he had one hell of a good year at Arkansas. You wonder how much of that is Taylor Green we were talking about, who can run the ball so much that did this open things up for this guy. But I love the build for a running back, and I love the size-speed ratio that he has as a running back. But, yeah, who jumps out to you? Obviously, the two guys at the top immediately jump out with Allen and Coleman to me, because those are like guys that could be 3-down backs in the NFL. They also have the build to hold up, and they've been highly productive in college.
I would have loved Terrion Stewart on this list too.
Yeah,
he's
in the draft guide.
Yeah. But my other guy is Jamari Taylor. He had a big year for Virginia. If you look at like his career, he continued to progress and get better and better. Kind of a dynamic. He's got some good hands. You can utilize him out of the backfield. So he's a guy that I kind of got circled that I'm going to be interested in watching at the Senior Bowl and his performance.
Yeah. Jonah Coleman, I mean, he's 5'8", 227. You talk about thick with multiple Ks at the end of it, And he's a good blocker. He forces a lot of missed tackles. He had over 1,000 yards in 2024, some injuries this year. But he's just a guy, like, at worst, I see a solid rotational back, whether he's one or two in the combination. Like, I think he's got a pretty high floor. I think he's a safe bet to go on day 2. And you're really happy about getting a guy like that. Similar thoughts with Katron Allen. Like, he doesn't have the elusiveness or the speed, but he's just a guy you could give him the rock 20 times in a game. He can take the punishment, deliver punishment to the other team. So I'm a big fan of him as well. They're actually, like, with some of the guys who went back to school, Jonah Coleman's like my 4th ranked running back. Katron Allen, my 5th ranked running back. So there's some guys I really like. I wish Demon Claiborne was on here from Wake Forest, because he's an electric guy. I wish he was in this game. Now, I know the Shrine Bowl has a lot of guys too. He might be on that one. Maybe we'll have another episode where we talk about all the Shrine Bowls when that list becomes official. But Mike Washington Jr., I've got his 8th on my list at running back, and honestly, he might move up even higher. I got Nick Singleton a spot ahead of him, not because of this season, but in general what I've seen with, like, the speed, the hands, the pass-catching ability, that I'm like, if Nick Singleton can't help a team at least on 3rd down catch passes, like, there's something wrong, because he can at least do that at a high level in the NFL. But I love Washington. He spent 3 years at Buffalo, a year at New Mexico State, and then this year at Arkansas, and he had 6+ yards per carry. I mean, that's phenomenal. And he actually showed a little bit as a receiver with 226 receiving yards, over 1,000 yards rushing. Huge fan of Mike Washington, 6'2", 228. So big fan of him. Wanted to give him some love as we go through this list. But Seth McGowan, I mentioned the off-field. Jam Miller, the injury. Le'Veon Moss also injured. Adam Randall is the guy to me, probably that I don't have near as high as could end up rising, because, like I said, converted wide receiver, but he's also like 6'1", 235. 6'2", 235. Like, this kid has real size. Like he's a bruiser, but obviously as a converted receiver, you got the pass catching ability. Adam Randall's a guy I think that could shoot up boards in a very weak running back class because a lot of guys went back that were even in the mix. And it wasn't the best class, especially compared to last year anyways. So for me, Adam Randall's a guy I'm keeping an eye on. I think he could be the big riser, a guy who gets up to like, mid-round pick at least. Not because right now I got him as kind of a 6th-round guy, but I think he definitely can be better than that because he showed improvement all year at Clemson in his 1 year that he moved to running back.
Yeah.
This is a lengthy list here, so I have to scroll a little bit as we go through the names to start. But finish up with the running backs there.
Yeah. Going back to Washington, like his explosiveness, that would be a guy that's going to be interesting. And going back to Singleton, I mean, he was a guy that like 5-star, just got the pedigree. His career was kind of like he started off strong and then he kind of tampered out a little bit. But I also think he's like a guy that could be like one of those sneaky players that you kind of forget about. A team swoops him up. And next thing you know, he's like ripping off big runs like in the NFL and making plays too. So because he's still got the skills, the size, and again the pedigree. So, like it'll be interesting to see what comes of his NFL career as well.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll look at the top of the list here. And these are actually in like alphabetical order. So it's not like, oh, this guy is on this, it's not ordered in how they're ranked or how high they'll be drafted. It's just alphabetical order. So Aaron Anderson, LSU. I thought he should have went back to school. He dealt with some injuries, a little bit shorter, but he's got a stocky build. Good slot receiver. Vinny Anthony II. I need to watch a little more from Wisconsin. Louis Bond, similar thing. Boston College. I don't have too much to say about those guys because, man, I've got 40-some guys in the draft guide already, and these are like, I know their names. I just haven't dove into them enough, to have like full reports on. Romello Brinson got off to a hot start at SMU this year, kind of fizzled out toward the second half, I thought. Barian Brown was the transfer from Kentucky to LSU. Speedster, return guy. Like a day 3 dart throw to just improve your but we do have the guy we picked up late, so I don't even think necessarily for the Bengals he'd be a guy. Deion Burks, I know you're going to talk about as we get into this. That is one of your favorite players. I think he could be a day 2 guy. Originally was at Purdue and then 2 years at Oklahoma. Dealt with injuries last year, but when he was healthy this year, he was awesome for them. He can do it all, move him around. He makes tough catches He makes contested catches that he shouldn't make at his size, and that always impresses me because that's a little bit of like your want to, but it also shows like, hey, you got good hands. You strong hands. You're not going to drop a lot of balls. Josh Cameron from Baylor. Kevin Coleman Jr., Missouri, another speedster. Casey Concepcion, who I think you hate, but I think he could be a fringe first-round guy from Texas A&M. Caleb Douglas, big-bodied guy, contested catch type of player, like 6'4" from Texas Tech. Malachi Fields, another big-bodied guy from Notre Dame. Jordan Hudson, SMU, don't know a lot about. Ted Hurst, do know about. Shout out to our former offensive coordinator, Hugh Jackson, who was coaching at Georgia State. He's like, watch out for this Ted Hurst guy. Now, this is a guy who might go in the mid-rounds. Another big-bodied guy with some speed, highly productive, had almost 1,000 yards. Colin Lacey, he's an older guy. I think he was at South Alabama originally, and then 2 years at Louisville. So he's like a 6th-year guy, but another guy with return ability. Jacoby Lane. I mean, that's another guy who I think could be a top 50 prospect in this class. Great size. Can he beat T. Higgins? I don't know if he's good a route runner, but, man, he makes some insane highlight reel catches. He's just bigger than everybody else. He's really damn good. Elijah Surratt playing for a national title with Indiana. Hey, he just wins. Google him. Elijah Surratt, same thing as Kurt Cignetti. He makes some awesome back shoulder catches along the sideline, stuff like that. He's never going to create a lot of separation, so that's something that's going to worry some teams. You got to have a real good role for him. Brennan Thompson might be the fastest guy in this whole group from Mississippi State. Huge productive season for them this year. Reggie Virgil, another guy, it's like 6'3", and then Harrison Wallace, the third, transferred from Penn State to Ole Miss, and I thought he was fantastic as well for them this season. So I don't know where you want to start. Probably with Deion Burks. There's a lot of guys on this list. we're not going to talk about all of them, but we'll let you try to highlight a few guys that you really like.
Yeah, just kind of my general feedback on this wide receiver class is you got a lot of good contested catch guys, a lot of good size. There's not a lot of good like separators or guys that are just going to kind of wow you, but they're going to get the job done, you know? So I think like you were mentioning before, like the Elijah Sherratts of the world, the Jacoby Lanes, those are guys that in the right position, utilizing the right way is they can make plays, contested catches. Like you had mentioned T Higgins. I mean, I think T gets a little more separation.
I do too.
But at the same time, like there are guys that could potentially grow into a player like that. And I'm thinking like who I'm really interested in is Jacoby Lane and Deion Burks. Now, Deion Burks, I have him circled as a player that I would love the Bengals to take a swing on. Very explosive. The thing that stands out to me most about him is he is small, but he like plays big. He's an excellent route runner, gets separation. And he played on an Oklahoma offense that was kind of like dog shit. He wasn't really like surrounded by a lot of good players, and he was still like productive and making plays. So those are two players that like initial like scan over Jacoby Lane and Deion Burks that I'm definitely really interested in and, you know, keeping track on during this like pre-draft process.
Yeah, I guess I'll kind of start with like Aaron Anderson, who you know, obviously I went through all these, but 5'8", 188, like that's a thick build if you're only 5'8".
Yeah,
slot receiver all day, does have some return ability. He can play on the outside, but obviously he's going to be a slot in the NFL full time. He did that a lot. I love how shifty he is, but he did deal with elbow and leg injuries both in 2025, which kind of limited him. So we'll kind of see how that goes. We'll move down the list. I mentioned Barian Brown specifically, like the Bengals, you want a speedster. He just never lived up to the receiver I thought he would be. Like he was a guy for 2 years. Kentucky last year, I thought he had a down season. This year, LSU was a little better than last season at Kentucky, but still not what I want to see. I'm a big fan of Kevin Coleman Jr. as well from Missouri. Another guy that I think could just be that slot receiver. He's super elusive, had, you know, almost 30 missed tackles forced this year. But I know it's the NIL age, but he's been at Jackson State, Louisville, Mississippi State, and then Missouri. Like, if you go every year, you're at a different school, that does throw up a little bit of a red flag to me still. But 74 catches, 932 yards. A guy that can get that quick separation, you know, can win down the field, but also separate. Concepcion, who I don't know how you feel about him, but he has the best chance to go in the first round.
Yeah,
to me, of the guys on this list. And you mentioned separation. This is the guy, and he was through summer scouting, and then he had another good season at Texas A&M. He was at North Carolina State before that. But he is probably the best separator in the entire draft class. Like he's smooth, he's quick, he knows how to get open and get open fast. Yeah. I don't want to sit here and go on and on about all these guys. We got a lot of positions to get through. So we'll move on to tight end.
Yeah. I was going to
just try to hit guys that jump out to us.
Yeah. I was going to say, going back to the wide receiver class, though, if we feel like this is a draft that, you know, maybe we think that a slot wide receiver is a position of need, maybe it's a nice to have, whatever. This would be a good draft to kind of address it. There's a lot of capable slot guys that I think we could grab, and that can come in and make an impact too. So just
one that's not on there, KP, I see you said Eric Singleton. He actually originally was, I think, going to go to the draft. Then he decided to hit the portal, and he's going to be playing at Florida this year. So,
did he go to Florida? Okay.
Yeah, Eric Singleton will not be in this class, but a guy to keep an eye on for next year for sure.
I know we saw a few questions regarding like BPA with the Bengals in the first round. I know a few people had mentioned kind of, you know, Lemon, Love, like, I don't, you know, it's just like those are interesting discussions. What I like about the draft is like, you know, is there a player like that we feel at 10, depending on how the draft board falls, that we could have, like, if Love is sitting there, like, do you like, man, like, and you have him number 1 in your draft class, like, where you?
Well, I know I moved Mendoza up. I
Mendoza,
moved and I
okay.
kept Downs at 2, and he's at 3.
Got 3 now. Okay.
Yeah, but that's just going on like pure. I did give the quarterback, and I usually never give like that quarterback tax, but I just really believe in Mendoza. Maybe I'm getting blinded by this like historical run that Indiana's on, and maybe that's coaching, but I'm just like I got to put this guy at 1. He's going 1, so I might as well put him at 1.
So if we attack free agency, right, get some players,
it's what we need to we have to.
Yeah, and like Malachi Lemon. I mean, oh my God, him in this offense, Jesus Christ, like I don't like. That's the thing. Like we're so focused in on defense as we should be because we got to fix it, but we don't even really know how free agency went because it hasn't taken place yet. Obviously, it's like
right. Yeah, no, for sure.
Like those players for me are like the true blue chippers in the top 10 guys, and it's like I'm fine if like we go out and we address some defensive line, maybe get some pass rush in free agency, which we'll break down at some point. Where it's like if those guys are there, I'm still opening the board to those guys. So just kind of a thought. I know there's a few things in the chat about it that I thought I'd bring up too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring stuff up because I'm trying to flip between screens and also pull this up. So, but yeah, we'll move on to tight ends for this class. I will say Makai Lemon will be excited. I just don't see the path now. I don't see the path to us improving at D tackle pass rusher, but there's no guarantee that Peter Woods will be there at 10. Like, we don't know how he's going to test. We don't know if somebody else is like, hey, he is kind of the guy as a pass rushing 3 tech in this class.
Yeah.
So that kind of worries me when you're setting at 10 that somebody else is like, no, we're going to jump the Bengals even. Pick 9 and trade up. The Ravens. You don't think the Ravens could use Peter Woods?
Dude, there's teams that are still in the playoffs that need pass rush. Like, everybody's looking for pass rush, and it just kind of pushes those players up. And obviously there's an obsession, as there should be, with pass rushing 3 tech. So he might get pushed up because he is the only guy. You know what I mean? So
and that is the world that, that's the mock draft I want to do. All those guys are going, what do you do? Because I don't want the Bengals to make that Keldrick Falk pick, that Caden Proctor pick that I'm scared to death they'll make. But let's look at the tight ends in this class. And a lot of these guys I don't even have in the draft guide. I'm going to be honest. They're best of the rest. They're like, it's not a great Senior Bowl tight end class, in my opinion. But Nate Burkitcher, Texas A&M, he had a pretty good season. Will Kazmarek, Ohio State. We know that guy can block his ass off. Some of these guys that can block their ass off go earlier than you expect. I can't remember the guy from Illinois 2 years ago, but he went like the 3rd round. And I was like, the hell? Tip Ryman. Yeah, that was him. I don't know how he's doing. I assume he can still block really good because that's who he is. John Michael Gillenborg from Wyoming, pass catcher all the way. He kind of moves like a receiver. He didn't have a very big season. I know he dealt with some injuries too, but he's a guy I'm really going to be watching at the Senior Bowl week that I think could help himself quite a bit compared to how he did this season. Plus, played at Wyoming, so it'll be good to see him out there against some better competition. Joshua Cuevas from Alabama. Another guy I need to watch a little more. Like, I know some people are pretty high on him. I'm just kind of like, I don't really have a read on him yet. I know he had a good second half of the year, and I haven't caught up to that tape yet. Justin Jolie from NC State.
Like him.
He's the highest rated player of this group on my board. I got him as a 6th ranked tight end, 6'3", 250. Former basketball player, can use his body really well. I don't know if he's 250. At one point, he was listed at like 230, but now he's listed at 250. So I think measurements are going to matter for him. In 2024, his contested catch rate was 11 for 13. He went 11 for 13. That's insane. Like, he just knows how to use his body. He's got to improve as a blocker, but there's a lot to like with this kid, including his toughness. Like, it's hard to get that out of your mind where he like pulled up with his hammy hurt or whatever and still ran 25 more yards to the end zone. So huge fan of Justin Jolie. Tanner Kozel is probably the next highest rated guy.
That's my guy.
I mean, he's a little over 6'6". He's in between 6'6" and 6'8".
Yeah.
I'll say it that way.
Power forward. Power.
Yeah.
Antonio Gates, bro. Antonio Gates.
But he's a little thin, and
Yeah.
I don't know that he'll ever give you anything as a blocker, but you look at like a Mike Gesicki, that's what he could be. And Mike Gesicki went in the first round and probably shouldn't have. But Tanner Kozu is a guy who I think could have a huge impact like that, where you split him out, in the slot a lot. And you let him catch passes. And in the red zone, he's a huge weapon because of his size. He played at Houston this year, transferred from Ball State.
Mhm.
DJ Rogers, don't know too much about yet. I think he's a bigger bodied guy. He did have some production this year. Sam Roush, Stanford, a guy who could really move up boards. He's outside my top 10, but not too far outside my top 10. 6'5", 250, physical runner after the catch. Had some really bad quarterback play and still had pretty good production. So Sam Roush is a guy who could, if a good week there, wouldn't shock me if he's one of those guys that go in the third round that you don't expect. And then Dan Villery, I don't know anything about him. I'll just be honest. So who stands out for you from the tight end list here?
Yeah, Justin Jolly, probably the most. I like him. Like every time I was watching NC State, he was making plays and getting open. He's a guy that can really get to like the second level as a tight end, get beyond those linebackers. And obviously the Houston tight end is a guy that, because I had some friends that went to Ball State and they were kind of talking him up when he transferred, and I was watching him at Houston and he was making plays. Like not the most explosive athlete in the world. So we'll see how he fares against, like faster linebackers and more physical safeties. Cause like you said, he's slight of built, but like if that's a player that continues to develop, he had a good year at Houston. There's like, I don't know. That's a guy that's like use him in different ways, like be creative. And I think you can get value out of him. So yeah, like you said, not the strongest tight end class compared to what we've probably seen over the last like 2 to 3 years. I think, I think next year's class will be really nice. But this year it's kind of like, day 2, day 3 guys, that sort of thing.
Yeah, which is, honestly, that's where your best time is usually like that third, fourth, fifth round range for a tight end is where you see a lot of them going. Honestly, where a lot should be taken, regardless of what their role is going to be in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I know Eli Raridan is not on this list. He is playing in the Shrine Bowl from Notre Dame. The injuries are the biggest thing with him, but he's a guy also between 6'6" and 6'8".
Yeah.
252. He had an awesome season. The injury history, the medicals are going to be huge for him, but just to mention him along with these guys, because I don't think he gets talked about enough in this tight end class. I think he could be a guy that rises up a little bit.
I should give a little more flowers to Will Kazmarek, transfer from Ohio. Like capable blocker, like one of those guys that you just throw on in your tight end room and he has a role. Like the Bengals love those types of guys, so like he just kind of in that mold. I think he's got a little bit of athleticism too. Like when Ohio State did throw him the ball, like it wasn't look like he was like stumbling over his own feet. You know what I mean? So so a little flowers to him too.
Yeah, I like that. Now this is all the offensive linemen, so I don't have it broken down by position, but I'll try to mention it for the ones I know at least. Austin Barber, offensive tackle, Florida. If you watch him versus Cassius Howell, you're like, man, how do you even draft that guy? But he had a good career overall. He's also in between 6'6" and 6'8", 316, redshirt seniors, played a ton of football for Florida. I think he's an aggressive finisher. He's got good knee bend. I think he's a good athlete overall for the position. Another guy, kind of like my guy, Moreau Freeling, you see that basketball background. It helps with their knee bend. It helps with their movement skills as an offensive lineman. Got to clean up the penalties. Still think he's working on his functional strength, but, man, the game versus Cassius Howell really did stand out to me in a negative way. I mean, he got beat like a drum in that one. A guy I have just ahead of him on my board is Judd Bowery from Boston College.
Yeah.
I don't think he had the greatest season. I don't know, will he be a guard because he's only 6'5", 310. But another guy, smooth mover, and coaches, teammates, everybody raves about the character of this person. Like, good locker room guy, but a good football player. Really light feet with a strong anchor. I love that in an offensive tackle. You know what I mean? A guy that can move, but also anchor down when he needs to. He's got to work on keeping defenders out of his chest a little bit. A lot of that may be some arm length. Let's see what those arms are. Is that a concern? Is that why he might kick into guard? Parker Brailsford, thought he might go back to Bama, but he declared. He's played a lot of football between Washington and Alabama. He's always going to be light. He's never going to be a road grader as a run blocker, but really good pass protector, really athletic guy, get up to the second level, can put him on the move, even from center, like him. Carmona, I've heard there's some like off the field stuff. I don't know. He had a good season for Arkansas. He's an offensive guard. Cage Casey, I liked him from Boise State. Another guy, I don't know if he'll kick in from tackle to guard, but he's played left tackle at Boise, 6'5", 315. He was a redshirt junior. Last year in 2024, only 6 pressures given up the entire season. He's just one of those guys that are like a technician. He didn't have near as good a season this year, but he's a guy I still like quite a bit. Demetrius Crownover, huge right tackle from Texas A&M, like 6'7". I'll go ahead and say it one time. Like 334 pounds, massive. But I do worry, like, getting beat with speed. J.C. Davis from Illinois also played tackle, but I think he kicks into guard. He's an exciting guy that when he kicks into guard, I think he could maybe surprise people and, like, start early in his career, even though he might likely to go on day 3. Jennings Dunker, he played tackle at Iowa, probably going to kick into guard.
Yeah.
He is pretty fairly highly rated, probably one of the highest rated guys on this list at guard. I think he's solidly on day 2. Jalen Farmer from Kentucky, he's also a guard. Alex Harkey played right tackle for Oregon, probably kicking into guard. Sam Hecht is the center from Kansas State. Maxie and Notcher, highly athletic right tackle for Arizona State. I think he's definitely going to stick at tackle. He's a fun prospect because he's got that like finishing, that nasty, and the similar movement to Spencer Fano, but he's probably going in the 3rd round instead of, top 10. So I'm a big fan of him. I don't know Delby Lemieux from Dartmouth. I ain't gonna lie. Don't know him. I haven't watched any film of him yet. But hey, it's a big week for him when you get invited to the Senior Bowl against this competition.
Yep.
Emmanuel Pregnone had a great season for Oregon at left guard. Keelan Rutledge, right guard for Georgia Tech. Drew Shelton, left tackle for Penn State. Not super high on him, but he's one of those guys that could, just because everyone's looking for tackles, and he's not that big. So I'm like, should he be a guard? But he's got the movement skills to stick at tackle. Does he go in the 3rd round? I got him as kind of 4th, but I could see him sliding in. Jake Slaughter, pretty good center from Florida. Bo Stevens. PFF grade-wise, Bo Stevens is an absolute man at guard for Iowa. Logan Taylor, 6'7", but he plays guard. Like, he's projected to be a guard. Carver Willis from Washington. Jeremiah Wright, right guard from Auburn, and Trey Zune III, who's played left tackle at Texas A&M, elite pass protector, but size-wise and really short arms, probably kicking in the guard. Woo! That was a lot of guys to go through with 3 positions.
The hog mollies,
Any hog mollies stand out to you?
The Ginnings from Iowa, he definitely does. Like, just very technically sound. He's from Iowa. I know you don't scout the helmet kind of thing, but they're always producing guys. And his position versatility, he's played, like you said, tackle, probably will kick into guard. I think that's a when I think of the Bengals perspective and maybe areas of need, those position versatility, it really helps him out. So those are always guys that I look at for, like, with the Bengals in mind, but he's somebody that stands out to me. Just played a lot of ball in college too, so he's seen a lot. So
if we're talking like for the Bengals, obviously we think they should re-sign Dalton Reisner.
Yeah,
but if they don't, have you watched any of like Keelan Rutledge from Georgia Tech? Like, I think that would be a guy they'd probably like at right guard.
Yeah, I like him a lot too, because Georgia Tech, in their scheme, you need to be athletic, and he's an athletic guy. And I just think anybody that we can get on our line that continue to add to the athleticism, going into, the more this split back look, I think at some point we're going to have to, like, our offensive scheme is going to have to adjust as some of our skill position players get older. We're going to probably need guys that can get out in space a little bit more. That's kind of what the NFL is calling for now. Like, we're seeing more heavier sets, more 12 personnel, guys that can move. So yeah, a guy like that is somebody I'd be super interested in too. And I mean, the guy what I feel like might have the highest ceiling is Jude Bowery from Boston College. I just kind of feel like just his size, his abilities, the way that he moves, like it's hard to find guys that can move like that. So he's like a guy that I'm going to be curious to see what he looks like going into the draft process too.
Well, that's why I like him, and I would say Max Ihenacher. I got them like Ihenacher's 9th on my board, Cage Casey's 10th for O tackles, and then Bowery 11th. A lot of them could slide into guard, but I'm always of the mind let them try tackle. And depending on the team's need, always matters too.
Yep.
But Ihenacher too, like the way he moves, 6'6", 325, redshirt senior. He's got that quickness to recover if he does kind of get beat, and at least get hands on a guy to keep them away from the quarterback, so a quarterback can step up. I think that's super important.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way he fires off the ball. I love the aggressiveness, the athleticism. So he's a guy that I'm pretty high on. All right, we got interior defensive line. Cameron Ball, Arkansas. Caleb Banks, Florida, and I know we'll probably have quite a bit of conversation on him. Nick Barrett, South Carolina. Rayshawn Benny, Michigan. Zane Durant, Penn State. Man, Zane Durant, I still summer scouting had him like 3rd D tackle. He's way down the list for that. Didn't have the season I expected, but there's still a part of me that really loves that guy. Undersized, but just a dog, and plays his ass off. Bryson Eason, Tennessee. Devin Eastern, Minnesota. Grayson Holton, Oklahoma, who I like. Lee Hunter, another guy. He's a nose tackle, but he can move. Very fun prospect. Texas Tech, originally at UCF. Tim Keenan III, a lot of guys are nose tackles in this class, and a lot of ones we're going to mention here are. But Tim Keenan III, Alabama. Jeffrey Mbaugh, SMU. Chris McClellan, Missouri. I like him. He's low-key really fun. Then Dominic Orange, Big Citrus, Iowa State. Nose tackle. Some people really are really high on him. I don't know where I'm at on Big Citrus. Like, I think he is what he is. He's a good run stuffer. You get him in the 3rd round, you're happy. But I think some people are like, yeah, I'd take him in the 2nd. He's top 50. I'm like, I'm not there with him. I don't think I'll get there.
He's a guy that's easy to kind of get obsessed with. And then, like, you look like 3-4 years down the road in the NFL, and he's just kind of middling. You know what I mean? Like, it's just he feels like that kind of guy. You just kind of see it over and over again with like some of these big dudes that have like athleticism. You're kind of like you get in fact. I mean, you got to. I mean, a lot of this is traits-based stuff, but it's just I don't know. It's just very like looking at him throughout the year. I actually watched a lot of Iowa State games, and he didn't flash. He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you didn't. So we went through that list, and now it's just kind of like, all right, so who? We got to probably start with Caleb Banks, right? Yeah. What are your thoughts on him? So 6'6", 333, injuries. And I don't know his age, so I went down that rabbit hole. Apparently he's came out, he said he's only 22. But if you, like, other places have had him at 24 years old. That's kind of a big difference to me, especially for a guy that has injuries. If he has the injuries and the age, it's tough. And either way, the injury stuff's tough because it's like recurring foot issues, back in camp, before, like after the season last year, in the season, multiple times this year. I just don't know, but I will say this. He's somewhere in between Deion Walker, who I really liked, but then I was like, well, he had a bad season. And then I probably should have liked him more than what I ended up liking him. I kind of feel like Caleb Banks, where he didn't play, I'm kind of in such a similar mold with him. But, like, ceiling-wise, people have thrown this out, and I don't disagree, like a Chris Jones, because a big dude that can move, so you can move him up and down the line. You can put him on the edge if you need to at 6'6", 334. Deion Walker had that too. So he's somewhere in between those two players for me. It's just the way he moves that is so damn special. And he had like a 20% win rate on true pass sets last year. Only played in 3 games this year. so there's not a huge sample size.
Yeah.
I like him. I wouldn't like him at pick 10 with all, the injury stuff, but if you don't get a D tackle in the first, and let's say he's there in the second for the Bengals, I take that swing 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with him.
Yep.
How about you?
Same. A little too much of a person they got to develop. She's like, you got to develop in the first round. Second round, totally fine with them. You know what I mean? It's like one of those where it's like, if we're gonna be mad at the Shamar Stewart pick last year, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like almost the same type of like projection.
Yes, that's a good because he has like a 25% missed tackle rate, and he doesn't finish near as often in the backfield as he should.
Yeah,
that's a great example. Like, he's the D tackle version.
Yeah, and I just kind of think like with that size too, the 6'6" frame, you got to be really, really good at using your leverage too, because like guys are going to try to get their hands in your chest, being naturally that tall and that big. But at the same time, it's like when you do have that size and that athleticism, and I know he was productive a couple years ago too. It's one of those things where it's like,
last year he had like 4.5 sacks or something.
Yeah. So
really good.
Yeah, there's definitely there's a lot to like. I like more than I don't, but like a first rounder, not so much, So,
but a team picking in the back half of the first round in the 20s, I certainly can see him going there because the upside is tremendous. Like, he's in the low 30s on my board, and that's mainly because of the injuries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One person we didn't really give a huge kudos to this year, and I'm not thinking about everything from a Bengals perspective in today's call, but conversation. Right. But it's Jerry Montgomery did a good job with developing some of these guys this year too. So it's like, like if you talk to Jerry Montgomery, he would look at Caleb Bang. He'd probably be like, oh yeah, let me get my hands on him. I can show him to play with leverage and better pad level and things like that. So, it's just anytime you have the position coaches that are in the conversations, especially with the Bengals, so the coaches have so much input, I could see him like slamming the table for him for sure,
Yep. Lee Hunter is like next on my personal board, of these players. 6'4", 320. I think he would play more at 330, 335 this year. He looked a lot quicker at UCF than he did at Texas Tech. Still quick, still uses his hands really well.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind seeing him back at 320 because he was still powerful enough to stop the run and play that nose tackle spot at 320. But he had a little more quickness, like surprising quickness. That's why I was high on him over the summer. Still high on him, but it's just something I want to mention. He had like 11% stop rate, which is only behind K-Mac, Caden McDonald, who's second on my board. He's fourth. I like those guys that can do a lot of stuff. Ryan says he'll be the second best D tackle in the class. I don't know, man. I'm Peter Woods, and then I'm Caden McDonald, and then I have Banks at 3 because of the upside, but I could see Hunter just being that solid, veteran, steady guy. And I'll say it wouldn't surprise me if he's the third best D tackle, but I can't go second because Peter Woods, I think, is going to be really good, and I think Caden McDonald, just as a run stuffer, is going to be elite because that's just what he is. He's awesome at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, listen, when you think Bengals, like, we have to have some answers on like what where we go with Chris Jenkins. You know what I mean? Like elite. Like, I'm not opposed to just still getting guys that are run stoppers too. You know what I mean? Like, it's just you can never have enough of those guys too. Especially
I wouldn't take McDonald at 10 though, and I love him. Like, if we were picking 20, I'd be like, okay, give me that.
Yep.
That's about where I want to take him. That's where I see, him on my board. 25.
Yep. Zane Durant's a really interesting guy to me too. A lot of athleticism. I think he could project he could do he could be a guy that maybe develop into a really solid 3 tech, So I don't know. It's like one of those like Penn State guys that come through the draft and they come in and they end up being solid contributors. Like he has all the athleticism. It's a guy that middle round day 2, like if he's sitting there, that'd be a guy that I would kind of look at too,
Are you talking Durant?
Yeah. Yep.
No, the dream still lives. I don't think I'd go day 2 for him. Now, I wouldn't be mad in the 3rd, but the dream lives that 4th round where Geno Atkins was drafted in the 4th round. That you get Zane Durant.
Yeah.
He's 6'1", 290. I don't think he's near as strong as Geno, but, undersized similar. But he was on the freak list, and we'll see if these times hold up. But reported to run a 4.66 40.
Mm-hmm.
If you run a 4.66 40, you are probably going on day 2. Now, I do wish he had more sack production, but he's just a habit creator. I do love Zane Durant quite a bit. Not gonna lie.
His motor just goes too.
Yes.
So the specifically Bengals, they always they like players with motors, that's like their thing too. So yeah.
So we've talked about most of the guys I want to talk about on this list. Chris McClellan, I guess I'll mention 6'3", 317. Run stuffer, but he has surprising athleticism. Like I think 5.5 sacks this year, but a lot of that's just effort, which, hey, I want a big dude to have effort. And I won't be surprised if he's a lot bigger than 317. Was originally at Florida, now at Missouri. I'm a big fan of him. And then the last guy is Grayson Holton from Oklahoma. So I don't think he gets talked about near enough. And I'm probably too low on him, if I'm being honest. He's my 18th ranked defensive tackle, but I really like him. Like, it's not a bad thing that he's 18th on my board. There's a lot of guys I like, but he's 6'2", 295. So a bit undersized, but man, he's so quick. He's such a dog. You can move him up down the high effort player. 5 sacks in 2024. There is concerns because of how much he rotated on, like, I want to give me the guy that played 500 snaps 3 straight years. That was Lee Hunter, by the way. Mm-hmm. Lee Hunter did that, which is insane for how big he is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just think that Grayson Holton's going to be a really good player. And like, he had a 9.7% stop rate, this year. So he's not just a one-dimensional pass rusher. He's a really, really good player for Oklahoma. So like, you're talking 4th, 5th round, Grayson Holton. I would love that for the Bengals. Have the board didn't work out. They hadn't got a D tackle yet. I think he would be a great pick in like the 4th or 5th round, specifically.
Yeah.
We will move to edge rushers. Oh my God. I think Crip asked, who's taking the biggest risk if they play in this game? Well, I think I see it. I think it's David Bailey.
Yeah.
Because that guy's a top 10 pick all day, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
he'll do the thing, show up, get a couple pass rushes, and leave. Couple guys did that last year.
He'll be in there day 1 and be like, yep, you all saw it. I mean, we saw it all year. Honestly, I won't be shocked if he just isn't ultimately there, or doesn't practice. Oh, I tweaked something. I'm not going to practice at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Vincent Anthony Jr., Duke, man, it's like 6'6". I expected more. He had like a 3-sack game early in the season and then just didn't. He's not consistent. I thought he would go back to school, for being honest. He had another year of eligibility, didn't take it. YIC's day 3, but somebody's going to be excited with the traits and what he can be. David Bailey, we mentioned Texas Tech. I think everyone knows him. Absolute freak show. Kieran Crawford from Auburn had a pretty good season, 20+% win rate. Denied Dennis Sutton from Penn State. Man, he played in that bowl game, and that showed me something by doing that. It was cold as hell, and no one else was playing from Penn State and Clemson that was going to be in this draft class. Not really. Not that didn't need to. So that's a solid day 2 pick all day long. Good pass rusher, decent as a run defender. I like him quite a bit. Logan Fano, still getting more information because I didn't think he'd come out. He is the brother of Spencer Fano. Pretty good pass rusher, but he's never been overly productive, like 4 or 5 sacks for an edge as your most in a season. Like, obviously, John Henry Daly, who's going to Michigan from Utah, stood out way more on that Utah defensive line than
Yeah.
Fano. Good player, good, like hustles his ass off. I get it. But just not sure about him. Ramella Height, Texas Tech, played opposite of Bailey. How big is he? My biggest question, how big is he? Because he's explosive. He's quick. Like watching his tape is fun. You know what I mean? Like, I really enjoy watching Ramella Height, but I'm like, how big is he? Like, because that just changes everything for me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quintavious Hutchins, Boston College. I haven't watched enough to give you an opinion. Gabe Akas, man, highly productive at Illinois year after year. Big body guy, like thick. So he can do it all. Max Llewellyn's definitely never developed as a run defender. I like him as a 4th, 5th round guy, as a pass rush specialist. Good size from Iowa. It's like, man, I just kept waiting on him to be able to actually stop the run a little bit. He never did. Keem Messidor from Miami, move them all up down the defensive line. 10.5, 11.5 sacks, whatever he has. Really good player, but he's 25, long injury history. That's going to drop him a little bit. I still think he's probably a top 50 player. Like, he's still top 50 on my board. It's tough to put him there because of those things, but it's like you put on the tape and you go, damn, this guy's really good. Derek Moore, Michigan, like a 36% win rate, but not as good against the run as he should be for a guy that's like 6'3", 265. LT Overton, Alabama. Probably one of my more disappointing players. I just don't know where he fits. Like, originally it was reported he was like 6'5", and then it was like over the summer he's 6'2", 274. He doesn't really have the pass rush juice you'd expect. He's probably a 3-4 edge that can stop the run. That's just probably who he is.
Yeah.
TJ Parker from Clemson. I like him quite a bit still. I know he didn't have the season many expected, but 6 forced fumbles last year. His sack production was like cut in half from like 11 to 5.5 or something. But he's explosive. He's a powerful, more of a power-based rusher than anything else. But I loved his effort still on games this year on a team that wasn't playing well. I still liked a lot about TJ Parker. And his win rate was still like 28%. So big fan of Parker. Jack Kyburn, LSU, transfer from Florida. Sion Sloan, I haven't watched yet. Nadeem Tucker, Western Michigan. Sion Sloan from NC State. Need to watch more of them. Zion Young, Missouri. His pass rush really came on this year. And he's like 6'5", about, I think, 260, 265. So a big body guy. I think probably 2nd round. But you never know. A team could really like his trajectory right now and take him in the 1st. So it's a pretty good list of pass rushers, like Zion Young, TJ Parker, Derek Moore, Messidor, like Height, Sutton, Bailey. Like, holy shit, that's a lot of talent.
I think of any position group, this is the one that's going to have the most discourse on, like Derek Moore, TJ Parker, where you're just going to have like players all over different boards. Zion Young, it's going to be really interesting. There's a lot of intriguing prospects on here. I was a guy that's, Derek Moore for Michigan, really from a pass rush perspective, is a guy that really intrigues me because like he was a guy that just wasn't getting a lot of like reps, but he was always in there making plays. And, it seems like a guy that was constantly like not being mentioned, not getting a lot of player time with Michigan, finally got it. Has a pass rush run rate, causes disruption, not great against the run. Obviously, I don't think that's like a thing that he's ever going to be able to do, but still a guy that like from a pass rush perspective, like I like a lot. Like he's constantly getting in the backfield. He just like figures out a way. So,
yeah, he's got a decent like bag,
Yeah,
like,
he's
got some moves.
He really does.
I mean, like honestly, I watched him. When I watched him a couple years ago, I'm like, how is this guy 265? Like he doesn't move he doesn't play or move, good and bad, as a guy who's 265.
True.
Like he moves so much better, but he's not like the power, element is not there, and the run defense isn't there. But still like him. Like you get a dude that can just get after the quarterback and close things out. Like Yeah, I think he's one of those guys.
Yep.
So he could really make some money Senior Bowl week, where he can showcase the one-on-ones and the things he can do.
Yep.
There anybody else you want to mention? You want to talk about Bailey, Sutton, Height, any under the radar, Akis, Llewellyn, Messador before we move on? Parker, the floor is yours because when I go through them, I talk about them a little more.
No, I mean, I think Dennis Sutton is always a guy that I'm always gonna have love for. He's had games where he was like so disruptive and other games where he wasn't. So it's just hard for me to get like a feel for him, But it's just like the games that I watched, I'm like, God dang, dude, why can't you play like this more consistently? I still like him a lot. Obviously the size is kind of concerning too. Can he put on some weight, like that sort of thing? But that's just, it's just like the list of these edge rushers. They're just like, it's a very exciting class because there's a lot of guys on here that you see the potential in, and you can kind of see like they could be a steal at some point in the draft too, So
yeah. We will move into linebacker. Kind of a mixed group for me. Like there's some guys that stand out, and there's some guys that I'm like, they're just guys. But Bryce Betcher from Oregon, baseball player. Is he going to play baseball? Is he going to play football? But highly productive linebacker for them. Kendall Daniels played some safety at Oklahoma State, transferred to Oklahoma, had a really good season, always had the size to be a linebacker, and did play more linebacker for them. And he's going to be an interesting prospect for me. Probably one of the more intriguing prospects at the entire Senior Bowl, because I think with a good week, he could really move up. Like right now, I think 4th or 5th round already, because he can cover as being a safety. He's a thumper. He's a really good player. Caleb Elams-Orr from TCU, Keyshawn Elliott from Arizona State, Owen Heineke from Oklahoma, Jack Kelly from BYU, a little bit older, really good pass rusher. Kyle Lewis, undersized. Is he ultimately a safety from Pitt? Big fan of Kyle Lewis, though. He's just a playmaker. Like interceptions, forced fumbles. He does it all, but he is a little smaller. It's a knock on him, but I think he's going to be a good linebacker in the NFL. Jacob Rodriguez, I think everyone's heard of that guy from Texas Tech. Probably my highest rated linebacker of the group, probably by quite a bit, if we're being honest. I think he should probably go day 2. He's just a playmaker. Xavier Sori from Arkansas. I know he's a linebacker. Originally was at Georgia, but he's a guy who gets after the quarterback. Pass rushing is what he's best at, even though he's listed at linebacker. Scooby Williams, Texas A&M. So who stands out for you, or you want to talk about the linebacker group?
Jack Kelly, for BYU. Like when he was out on BYU's defense, they definitely struggled. Great size, gets, sideline to sideline, was a 4-star recruit, very productive. Gives you, like you said, some pass rush juice. I think he had 15 sacks in his career. So yeah, man, that's a guy that I would definitely love to just kind of see how he does in the Senior Bowl and just kind of following him closely.
See, Ryan says Jack Kelly should soak in the moment. I think he's saying, nah, that ain't an NFL player. You guys don't agree on him.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, he's a little older for sure, so
yeah,
it's one of those. But, players from these parts of the world have come and been productive players in the NFL too,
So is this when Crip calls you a homer? Homer?
Yeah, probably. Although I don't really like BYU. So,
right.
But
Bryce Betcher for me stands out, and Kyle Lewis, and I kind of talked about both of them, but Kyle Lewis, 7 sacks last season, 4 interceptions, 100 tackles in 2024, another good season this year. But he's listed at 6'2", 225. So obviously that's a concern for a linebacker, but it's dude's just a playmaker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's got to be a role for him. And maybe it's still at linebacker, but maybe it's a specialized role.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be really good.
The linebacker group is definitely one I got to take a closer look at for sure. It's just, from just kind of somewhat underwhelming so far. I mean, I think there's good players in here, but definitely not.
Well, the Senior Bowl group, I don't think is near as good as the class as a whole. You know what I mean?
Yeah, agreed.
Like, I think there's a lot of players I wish were playing in this. Torian York, Jake Goldade, some of them are in Shrine. You
Yeah,
know, Jay Shambara, Marion Carter, Josiah Trotter. Then you got Anthony Hale Jr., C.J. Allen, Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese. I think the linebacker class as a whole is good, just
Yeah.
they aren't playing in this game.
yeah, yep. Yeah, Anthony Hill Jr. is really going to be interesting to me.
Yeah, is he an edge? Is he a
yeah.
linebacker?
Yeah,
You know?
yep.
Cornerbacks, quite a long list here. Takario Davis, like 6'4", Washington, originally Arizona. Charles Dennings, who, man, he has a chance to probably make the most money of this group because he's low under the radar coming out of Stephen F. Austin, but seemed like a pretty damn good player from the little bit I've watched of him. Thaddeus Dixon didn't have a great season after he transferred to North Carolina from Washington, but really good season last year. Dalen Everett, Georgia, just a playmaker in the biggest moments. TJ Hall, Iowa. Igbinosun, penalty machine from Ohio State, but he's physical, and I thought he was pretty damn good this year, for being honest. Chris Johnson, San Diego State.
That's
Another
my guy. That's my
could be an
guy.
outside first-round pick. He's top 50 all day already.
That's my guy. Talk about sticky. Marrying receivers, great hips. Oh, God. Yeah.
Willie the third, Texas A&M, like 6'3", didn't have the greatest season, but still flashed quite a bit. Still a lot I like with him if you're getting in the third, fourth round. Hezekiah Massas had a lot of interceptions for Cal this year. Really good season for him.
Yeah.
Jalen McMurray from Tennessee. Julian Neal from Arkansas, another guy I think solidly day two already to see what kind of Senior Bowl week he has, but really good size, really physical. Yeah, he's a fun prospect. Offician's Presock doesn't get enough love from Washington. He's like 6'4", had a fantastic season. I think he was better, than his teammate this year in Takario Davis, who's definitely more highly recognized from the past couple of years. Chandler Rivers, Duke, probably going to slide into the slot, but holy shit, that's a good just a football player. Traydon Stukes, good season, has a little bit of an injury history from Arizona, but great season for them. Colin Wright, Stanford. Is he a safety? Is he a corner? I don't know, because I don't know if he has the speed to stay at corner, but he's, one of those heady football players coming from Stanford.
Yeah. The two, I mean, Chris Johnson, talked about him. Massey's for Cali. Like a guy gets his hands on the ball, probably one of the more productive DBs in terms of interceptions, passes defense. He's sleight of frame, going back to like the Emmanuel Forbes profile, that sort of thing. But man, yeah, if you want a DB that just is active and gets his hands on balls and causes disruption that way, that's a guy that I'm really high on too.
Yeah, love it. Then we'll get into the last position group, safeties, which there's some good names on here, some good players. And the Bengals, I know everyone's obsessed with Caleb Downs, but what if he's off the board? What if the Bengals don't pick him at 10? You're going to need other guys. One of those guys we talked about earlier in the show, Thieneman, who's not on this list, is a guy you should be interested in if he's there in the second round. But let's look at some other guys. Blood, that is playing in the Senior Bowl. Bud Clark from TCU, ball hawk, like a 6-year guy, but man, he's got, I don't even know how many interceptions. It's over 10 for his career. Jalen Kilgore's kind of played in the slot at South Carolina. I think he's going to be better at safety. Really good player. Thought maybe he'd go back to school, but a guy I was high on from his tape last year, and he just makes plays. He gets his hands on the ball. AJ Halsey was at LSU this year after transferring from Houston. Dog. AJ Halsey, you're talking second round, Bengals specifically. He should be a target for sure. Same thing with the next guy, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, 6'3", almost 210. I love Emmanuel McNeil-Warren from Toledo. The dude is a playmaker. He knows how to punch the ball out. He knows how to get interceptions. He's got range to cover the entire field. And we're going to put him on a tight end. He's 6'3". I love Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I think he'd be ideal for the Bengals in the second round personally. VJ Payne, Kansas State, pretty good player, pretty athletic, little undersized, but guy that maybe can play in the slot a little bit as well. Similar with Kamari Ramsey. I think Ramsey's better than Payne from USC, but he's had to play some slot corner. But the year before when he played more safety, I thought he was really damn good when he played safety, and I think he's going to be a really good safety in the NFL. So I like Kamari Ramsey. Deshaun Singleton, Nebraska. Genesis Smith, Arizona. Really good prospect, too. You're talking day 2 guy all day long. Michael Taft. I don't know how I feel about Michael Taft. It kind of run it over the summer when it was reported he was like 170. How can I have a safety at 170? But he kind of plays like a slot corner. And he will hit the piss out of dudes. The former walk-on, so he's all gas, no brakes kind of player. I do like Michael Taft. It's just what is his size? You know, what's his measurements? What's he test at? Does he still test and measure? Does he do 2 different things? You know, does he try to measure in at the Senior Bowl and then at the combine he tests because he dropped all his weight back down? Those players are always a little tough to gauge for me. And then Jacoby Thomas, who's playing in the national championship game, man, he's a heat-seeking missile. He's a really solid player. I like quite a bit too. I got him as kind of a 4th round, but I could see him sliding into day 2. So, man, a ton of really good safeties here.
Yeah. I mean, a guy kind of like sneaky for me is Deshaun Singleton, Nebraska.
Okay. Tell me about him because I haven't watched too much of him. So
yeah, good size. 6'3", 210.
Okay.
I think Nebraska, since they had to commit a lot of guys to the box this year, because their defense line, they just weren't great at stopping the run. So his productivity in the past game was there as much because they were asking him to do a lot, which obviously that expanded his skill set. He's a guy he's like a sideline to sideline player, gets all over the place. I think the problems with him, he's just not great in coverage. So that's going to be a problem. But he's also kind of a guy you take a shot on, see what you can do. But I think he's going to be a really solid special teams player in the NFL too. So, yeah.
Love it. Anybody else on the safeties you want to talk about?
VJ Payne too. He's a guy for Kansas State. Had a lot of hype coming into this year as one of their better defenders. To be quite honest, I didn't really follow up on what kind of season he had, but I know he was a guy that was really solid throughout his career. So that's another guy I'm going to definitely have my eyes on in the Senior Bowl to kind of see what he does.
Love it, man. So we went through the entire Senior Bowl roster, tried to highlight some guys. I enjoyed that. It's fun.
Yeah.
I like talking draft. I like talking that stuff. Obviously we started, how's it going to affect the Bengals? Maybe we'll have to fire off a mock draft when we do our show Friday and try to let that scenario play out where a lot of players go off the board and break that down. But these shows that we don't have scheduled, it's like, hey, something came down, boom, let's do that. I said we're going to talk a lot about free agents, probably boom, free agent D ends, D tackles, whatever. My thoughts are we'll probably for Friday, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll check out a free agency class. Maybe it'll be defensive end, free agent class. And then also if there's time, we'll do a mock draft. Just the top 10 picks again or something.
Yeah. I mean, still it's off season, still in season. Any kind of NFL news pop out to you? Obviously Tomlin's gone, decided to step away, whatever you want to call that. Just kind of interesting that we're the only team without the opening, So Zach Taylor was taking some kind of stray shots this week or yesterday, him being the only coach remaining. But yeah, just kind of interesting AFC North.
And then there's buzz today about Harbaugh potentially to the Giants. It sounds like they're very interested in him. I don't know. Tomlin, he technically stepped down. So they still have his right. So a team would have to trade for him, but he's going to at least take a year off.
Yeah.
And was that how long did he coach the Steelers? It was 19 years.
19 years.
I thought I saw that. And I'm like, was it really 19? That's a long time to be the coach of any NFL team. Almost 20 years, 2 decades. Crazy. You were coaching the same team. So I honestly don't even blame him for just taking a year off.
Yeah. And of all those jobs, the Ravens are probably the best because, Cleveland and Pittsburgh are kind of in quarterback limbo, So that's going to be interesting to see it's going to be interesting if Pittsburgh takes a pivot, and tries to go maybe offensive minded coach this time around. I mean, that just doesn't align with their identity. So of the coaching openings, the Pittsburgh is the most intriguing one to me because obviously Tomlin's been there for so long, and then Cowher before that was a defensive guy. Like, do they keep it in that mold, or they try to shake things up a little bit? So
Well, it seems like they might keep in that mold, right? Because they've got Flores coming in for an interview, and that's got like. It's kind of like, did we just get him in here and let's see how it goes for a year because we are in quarterback limbo? and then if he comes in and he sucks, we just we get rid of him the following year and bring in another coach. I mean, I know that's not typically the Steelers' way to get rid of a coach. You know, that they'll stay there for 20 years. You know that they never fire coaches either.
I think that job is more of a rebuild than what they probably are. Fans are prepared for it because their defense is old now and heavy contracts as well. Like, and then, you know, you got to figure out the quarterback position too. So it's just like, I don't know, like who wants to get there right now. So
I think you're right. Like if you look at it, what it should be, but somehow there seemed like a team that will just remain somewhat up there somehow. And it makes no logical sense.
Yep. Or it's like, how much of that was the Tomlin effect too, for better or for worse as well? You know, it's like
they'll be a fascinating one to, you know, this time next year be like, oh, okay. Yeah, it was Tomlin, good or bad. Or, well, Pittsburgh just finds ways to make things work with who's there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just it'll be very fascinating.
It is fascinating. It's one of the more fascinating coaching openings. Not per the job, just to kind of see like how Pittsburgh handles something like this, because this was their version of going all in this year because they did put so much money in the defense, and their defense finished the year at 26. Although they played a little bit better down the stretch, but then offensively it just like they had a few games here or there, but like. The quarterback position is still just, it's kind of a mess for them. So yeah, it's going to be interesting how they go about navigating all that, whereas if you look at the Bengals, high draft pick, a lot of cap space. There's no excuses.
I mean, there's not free agency. That's like, it'll be before the draft will give me a good feeling of how next year even has the potential to go. Not that it will go, but has the potential to go in a positive way or not.
Yeah.
Because if you go out and you just don't even do anything hardly in free agency to improve the team, you just, here's a couple extensions. Here's a couple guys. Oh, Joseph Ossai, we've got to give him $20 million a year. And that's not a knock on Joseph Ossai. I don't mind bringing him back. But if that's what you do, we just front-loaded a contract for Joseph Ossai. Here's an extension for DJ Turner, who fully deserves one, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But if that's your moves, and then like two mediocre free agents, TJ Slayton, Oren Burke level free agents on the defensive side of the ball, you're not serious. It doesn't matter if you have a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So if they're aggressive and they really get some guys who we're going to start talking about probably on Friday in an Odafe way.
Yeah. Jalen Phillips stuff. They gotta make some type of splash, especially it's like, I mean, Trey Hendrickson at this point, Trey Hendrickson should go slap TJ Watt, because like it's gonna be hard for him to get like after his production levels, it's gonna be hard for him to get a big contract. So it's like, I don't know, man. Like he might be coming back for a discounted rate at this point.
And I don't see. I think all bridges are burned with Trey Hendrickson in general. I think it's just fresh start. I still think somebody maybe gives him $25 million a year, but maybe they give him 2 years, $50 million, and some of it's incentive based. Where it looks good. Oh, you still got $25 million. You got $30 million. You got $32 million per year, but it's like it's all on games played and different things that, as it should be. Honestly, when they start getting in their 30s.
Yeah, the guaranteed money is not probably as sweet as he probably once hoped for. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I don't think it will be. I agree. But it'll all be fascinating, fun to keep up with. But yeah, it's a fun show, man. I love talking draft stuff, Senior Bowl declarations, players that came out. The Dante Moore thing, we'll continue to talk about that if we fire up a mock draft on Friday or whatever we end up doing our next mock draft with the full first round, because it's gonna have some player not on the board, but we might do the mock draft and be like, oh, there's still gonna be 2 players on the board to choose from that should be slam dunks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whether they pick them or not, who knows? But
Yeah. Exactly.
all right, brother. I
Bro.
appreciate you doing this show with me. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and we will see you in a couple days on Friday.